to Enots Engineering. I'm Alan. In today's video I'll be making an emery stick, show you the benefits of that. That's at the end of the video. I'll be replacing the bush that I use for my ER20 collets from an aluminium one to a steel one. And we'll be taking a look at some of the steel I got from a steel stockholder. So let's go into the workshop. This is what I purchased. Basically offcuts from the metal supplier. 35mm diameter, 200mm long. 40 diameter, 150 long. 30 diameter, 350 long. These are all 25 diameter and they're about 4 inches, 120 mil long. This is 24 diameter, 250 mil long, and these have been welded together at the end. This one's 16 diameter, 300 mil long, and I think they weld them together so when they put the bars through a saw, automatic saw, it can chop 2 at a time and they stay together, doesn't move in and out the saw, so that all the lengths are right. So all that cost me £10, that was including the VAT. So it may pay for people who need small quantities of metal to phone up the local metal distributor and ask if you could look through their offcuts or scrap bin and buy some metal off them. Today I'll be making a new bush for the rear of the headstock on the lathe. This bush is for the drawbar. Goes on this end of the drawbar, and the collet goes on this end. This is a number 3 Morse taper, so it just makes sure that the Morse taper is pulled in tight when I'm using collets on the lathe. This bush is a bit loose, as you can see, and it's made of aluminium. So for a project that I've got coming up, I need to get an exact size for the lathe clearance hole in the headstock. So I'll make a steel one that will give me a guide for the size and I can use it on this. I'm going to change this chuck to the 4-jaw because the piece of bar I want to machine won't go through the centre of the chuck, and if I'm holding it there it's only going to be held on 3/4 inch of jaw. When I try and machine out here it's going to vibrate unless I put a centre in it, but I've still got to machine the face off. I've just cleaned out the chuck with a toothbrush and blown the dirt out the back. It's not round, this material. That's about a 1/10 hour run out, but it has got ovality in that bore, so I'll leave it at that. I've just set the tool at centre height, so let's see how it cuts. This is just engine oil I'm brushing on, just to give it a bit of lubrication on the tool. .5958. I need that to be finished at 27. The outside diameter is not critical. It's just to clear the hole in the back of the lathe. The 27mm will be fine. Just to clear the hole in the door that covers the gears on the back of the headstock. So what I want to do now is bring this down roughly to this diameter, about halfway along. Okay, I'm about half a mil away now from the finished size. So what I've done is turn the tool slightly so that it's nearly parallel with the job. What that does, it transfers the cutting from the point to the side a bit more, and hopefully it'll give me a better finish. So that will do, 20.5. I'll just emery cloth that down. Tip, if you're using emery cloth, get yourself a piece of wood and just put the cloth along the bottom. Lets you put more pressure on the emery cloth. You can control it better. You've got less chance of it catching in the chuck and catching your fingers on the chuck, because your fingers can be further away from the part. And you can put more pressure on that emery cloth. Let's just take me. So what I need to do now is just put a chamfer on the beginning and take the corner off there, and then drill the hole in. Use the back of the tool there because it's not used that much. It's usually the front that gets used. I'll just take the sharp edge off that. So the next job is to centre drill. The hole I need will be finished off about 16mm, so I'll have to go up in steps for that. So we'll start off with this drill. This is a 7/16 drill. Changing over now to the boring bar. Put the speed up to 850 revs. So to measure the bore, I've got telescopic gauge, and basically it's two spring-loaded plungers on the end of a bar, and by tightening up the handle you can lock the plungers. So what you do is you put this into the bore you want to check, move it around till it's centralised, and then slowly lock up the plungers, remove it from the bore, and that is set at the bore. Then using a micrometer you can then just bring it down gently until you get, just starts to rub, and that gives you the size. It's about 576. I want it round about 600. Just under 600. So that's okay. I'll put chamfer on the inside and then we'll get ready to part the bar off. Change the angle of my boring bar. I'm just going to use it to chamfer the inside. Now I know from experience that when using this 4-jaw chuck I always get a lot of vibration when parting off, and I don't know why. It may be because of the overhang of the chuck. It's quite a big chuck for the lathe. It could be that because the work is so far out, it creates a bit of vibration and it builds up. So what I'm going to do now is try it at the slowest speed I can cut, which is 40 revs per minute, see whether I can get away with it. Oops. I've resharpened the tool. I'll fix it back into the holder, try again. Just setting my dial to 0 at the right depth. And what I've done is made it cut the groove a bit wider to give me a bit of clearance on the side of the tool. I've changed to the 3-jaw chuck. I've put the job in and just put DTI on it and just check the run out. And I have tweaked it a little bit to get it running true. So now the run out is that 1/10. Each division on there is 1/2 thou. So that goes in the back of the headstock, that goes on, and then I've got an old wheel nut that I put on there to tighten it up. To make an emery stick, if you take a sheet of emery cloth, this is a 150 grade aluminium oxide cloth, spray the cloth with a contact adhesive. The contact adhesive I used was in a spray can, and you can find it in carpet departments for gluing carpets. Put that on one side to let let it go tacky, and take your stick and spray that with the contact adhesive and let that go tacky. Once both sides are ready to glue, take the stick, place it along the edge of your emery cloth and push it firmly down. Smooth it out all the way along, then place it on a flat surface and rotate the stick 90 degrees on top of the emery cloth to get the next face ready. Press this face down so that the emery sticks to the stick, fold it again and press it down again, and then fold it onto the last side and press that down until all the sides are firmly pressed and stuck to the emery stick. Next thing is to take a sharp blade and cut along the edge of the emery cloth using the stick as a guide. Ensure all the emery cloth is stuck down to the stick and let it dry. Once your emery stick has dried, it should look something like that. It doesn't matter what size stick you use. Obviously you need it long enough. You can leave a bit at the end clear if you want to use that as a handle. But what you find is when you're using it, it's a lot better than just loose emery cloth. With loose emery cloth, you're holding it there. You've got to pull down or towards you. You can't get enough pressure on the emery around there. And also you end up with two pieces at the very end you don't use, and you need to put your hands very close to the chuck. With the emery stick, let's knock this off. Your hands are well away from the chuck. You can use it on the front of a piece. You can see there I could put more pressure on that than I could do with the loose piece of emery with your finger inside. Because what you're doing, you're putting your fingers curved so you've not got a flat contact with the emery to the metal. So on here you can fold that down tight, you can push hard on it, polish the edge. Also you can use it on the corners, and you can use it like a file to give you a better finish. And because this is flat, it gives you a flat surface as well. You're not putting lots of slight radiuses into the surface because of your fingers. And you've got the four sides you can use. As you see, that's polished up quite nicely, and I've got more pressure with the stick on the job than holding a piece of emery. When you use the stick, if you put wet and dry on the stick, you could put some water on there to get a polished surface. I'm not putting any pressure on, just with my thumbs. You've got more control because it's not trying to pull away from you. Also there's less chance of it ripping because it's glued to the stick, so it won't move. Now when you've got your piece of emery in your hands like this, you're only using a small area. You can't put a lot of pressure on because it's fighting you all the time. Oh well, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and hope to see you next time on Enots Engineering.